What just happened? What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm diving into episode 2 of Lovecraft Country on HBO, starring Jonathan Majors, Jurnee Smollett, Courtney B. Vance, and the wonderful Michael Kenneth Williams. There's a lot to unpack about this episode. This is spoiler filled, so if you haven't seen the episode, please watch it and then come back to this review. But guys, I'm so confused. But hey, before we get into that, if it's your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I talk about movies and TV just like this. So if you want to see even more content, go ahead, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel and tap on that bell so you don't miss out on anything new. If you missed my episode 1 review, the link is in the description below. And guys, I just got done covering DC fandom, so if you're interested in that, the playlist is floating around on the top of the screen. Okay, so let's get into episode 2 of Lovecraft Country, titled Whitey's on the Moon. This episode is directed by Daniel Sackheim, and it is totally different in tone than the first episode. There are some similar elements, like of course the sci-fi suspense elements, but I don't think that this is anything like the pilot episode. That is both good and also bad for some people, I get it, but for me, this episode achieved exactly what it wanted to do, which was leave us confused and open up possibilities for the rest of the season that I genuinely did not see coming. The premise of this episode is clearly Atticus, Uncle George, and Letitia come across this very mysterious home, and they're greeted by William, who's played by such a great actor. Jordan Patrick Smith does an amazing job in this entire episode. He's spot on, man. But they start to learn that this weird home is not necessarily as welcoming as they once thought it was. It's full of very dark arts, cultish behavior. The Order of Ancient Dawn is this weird cult that is incredibly racist, and what they're doing is trying to open the portal to the Garden of Eden. Okay. There are a ton of biblical references here, and then there are also some moments where you just are left clueless, and that comes in the way of spells, wizardry, and dark arts. And yeah, I really had to take notes for this one. I think the strongest performance here, though, wasn't Jonathan Majors. It definitely wasn't Courtney B. Vance. They all gave really good performances, but the scene stealer for me here was Jurnee Smollett. I mean, Letitia was going through a lot of really emotional moments throughout this episode. There's one particular moment where, unfortunately, it wasn't reality. It was Christina Braithwaite who was casting a spell on each of our main characters, and Jurnee Smollett was just sort of, I want to say, imagining this, like she was present in this situation, but it wasn't a real scenario, and she was just breaking down and crying and talking about her mother. And to me, this was the most captivating moment because it gave Jurnee Smollett the spotlight she deserved. This show is showing how wide of a range she has in her acting arsenal, and I love it. And I'm so glad that this episode introduced Michael Kenneth Williams to the team. He plays Montrose, who of course is rescued, and I love the fact that he was brought in the way he was. It was almost as if it was a great contrast to Uncle George's character. Him and Courtney B. Vance, of course being brothers, don't have the best relationship, but it gave us so much character development in such a small amount of time with Montrose. So I really appreciated that about this episode. However, with all that being said, there's a lot of great acting. The writing here was a little back and forth for me. I felt like they maybe packed in too much into one episode. They skirted over a very important moment in the forest, for example, with Uncle George. He was explaining to Atticus and to Letitia that, well, maybe there's some sort of bloodline relation between Titus Braithwaite, who is the leader of this cult, and it's totally bonkers. But basically, Atticus has some Braithwaite blood in him, so he's able to basically pull rank, especially in one moment when they're in the dining room and he says, "I order everyone to get up and get out," although he used a certain word that I can't use here. The thing is, the story just kind of went over it really fast, so this is going to require probably another watch for me. However, I almost feel like they could have spanned a lot of this info out over the course of 2 episodes. They just packed everything into 1 hour, and it almost felt as if they were rushing through very pivotal moments in the plot. And if you were looking for more creatures, you only got that maybe a couple of times for brief moments, but it's very interesting to see how Christina Braithwaite described these creatures. She called them guard dogs, and this whistle of hers calls them off. So it's almost as if she holds some sort of dominion over these creatures. I also have to give some props to Abby Lee, who plays Christina Braithwaite. She's so fantastic in this episode. The way her and Jonathan Majors, they have some weird chemistry, and they almost understand each other. However, Christina Braithwaite is tied to her family allegiance, and it just seems like there's a divide there clearly, but there's also a bridge that both of them might cross. However, we're supposed to assume that, you know, Abby Lee's character is dead. However, I don't think she'll be gone forever. I think she comes back somehow. Now, there are some really shocking events that happen, especially toward the end of the episode. Uncle George is presumed dead. He's laying in his brother's arms, and even though we're meant to believe that he is dead and gone, and Jonathan Majors does an amazing job with this moment, to me, I almost felt there wasn't too much of an emotional impact after you start to think, this is only episode 2. So they're definitely bringing him back. He's too important of a character, and they tease the fact that maybe Atticus can control, you know, a little bit of wizardry himself. Towards the end, he seemingly was able to help fight off this weird spell that one dude was putting on him. I don't even remember his name, but of course he had some help from his ancestors. So I thought that was really neat that they drew a parallel, and eventually the good guys won. But did they really? There was a lot of sacrifice involved to get them out of that situation, and we don't know if they can turn back time. However, it's episode 2. There's no way Courtney B. Vance is dead for the rest of the season. Now, before I give you my overall thoughts on this episode, guys, I have to say one thing about this series so far, 2 episodes in. The score is fantastic. The soundtrack is wonderful. It just complements everything on screen, and I am a huge Leon Bridges fan. I love River. I think it's an amazing single. It's heartfelt, and I always viewed it in a very positive light. But then, to be honest with you, at the end of this episode, when you pair it alongside Uncle George's death, it makes me sad. Like, really sad. Luckily, I think I get the gist of where this show is going, and it's not going to follow traditional rules. So overall, you guys, I definitely liked the episode. I didn't love it like I did the pilot, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go from here. You don't just kill off a main character so early in a series, or in a season rather. So I'm wondering how far they'll take this. Do they, I don't know, keep Uncle George dead for a while until one day there's a spell that can bring him back? I don't know how they'll play this, but I think the show has to tread a little carefully too, because some audience members are going to be so confused that they might want to tune out. So in the next episode, I almost expect it to be a little bit more full of horror and those creatures again. I don't see them going back too heavy with the spells and the wizardry again, but they're going to have to address it one way or another. But again, Lovecraft Country is must-watch TV on Sunday nights. It's something that I think is so amazing just to witness in terms of the acting, but they're setting up some really cool events down the road. I don't know what those events could be. I'm so confused, but I'm still invested, and I still think this is worth your time on Sunday nights. So if I had to grade this episode, I'd give it like a B. The first episode I'd give an A+, of course. So I'm curious to see if the writing would maybe level out a little bit as we get into episodes 3 and beyond, but still, again, this show is still so darn good. Alrighty guys, well there you have it. That was my review of episode 2, Whitey's on the Moon. Again, you still gotta watch this show, guys, but I want to know how confused you are, because I'm very confused. In the comments below, go ahead and get loud, smash that like button, and don't forget to hit the big red button below and stay subscribed to the channel. I got some reactions coming for Legend of Korra this week. I'm dropping a video talking about Robert Pattinson. Yeah, we gotta do it, and so much more. Again, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.